The Lost Cryptids Conservatory, where we will shatter your reality to bring you closer to the truth.
All right, guys, welcome back to another live show. Sorry about the technical issues we've had the last few days. Some unexplainable things, honestly. But basically, we're good to go now, and we have an awesome show for you guys. We have several members of the Bigfoot research team, TAAPS. We have Josh Parsons' dad, Todd Parsons, on with us today, and Dave and Mike. How you guys doing?
Well, hey, we're doing good. We appreciate y'all having us on. Unfortunately, Shane Lee, who's the founder of TAAPS, had an emergency and had to step out from the podcast today. But we're glad to be here and looking forward to talking.
Yeah, same here. Well, let's just jump right into it. Todd, how did you guys all get together and form TAAPS? How did the founder form this? And why don't you take us into what specifically got you started also?
Well, I started off, I got in the subject back when I was a child in the 70s. I got interested in the subject. I was interested in the unknown in general, but especially Bigfoot. I checked out every book I could get, and I used to write some of the old researchers like Peter Byrne and stuff like that. And then, just follow the subject over the years. And then I guess back in early 2000s, I guess my interest renewed in it because there was a lot, first of all, the internet came out and there was a lot more information regarding the subject of Bigfoot. I learned real quickly that it wasn't just a creature in the Pacific Northwest. There was evidence that came out, such as the fingerprint expert Jimmy Chilcutt, who came out and showed a lot. Basically, it was enough proof for me to know that there's something out there, and so I got interested in the subject again. So in 2007, I bought backpacking gear, and me and my sons went out in Sam Houston National Forest. And I chose that area because, I looked at the online database that BFRO had out there, and saw there's quite a bit of sightings in a specific wilderness area in Sam Houston. And we went out and not expecting to hear or see anything. And as soon as it got dark, we started hearing the classic whoops. And we had three creatures around us most of the night. And they were kind of moving around, communicating with each other with those whoops and all that. So after that, I just jumped into it, got really heavily into it, started attending conferences, reading up. I really didn't get out in the field that much at that point. It was several years later. And then I met Mark And Mark and I started doing stuff together. What, maybe 2 years ago, Mark? About 2 years ago, maybe a little
yeah,
longer.
about 2.5 years ago or so.
Yeah. So we started doing research together and had quite a few experiences. And then Mark had met Dave and got to know Dave. And then when TAAPS had one of their expeditions down to Sam Houston, I hooked up with the guys, and after meeting everybody and figuring out that we all really had this, we're all on the same page. We all clicked well, got along well. I had a lot of the same ideas on how to go about doing research, and we also are very open minded and want to include other people who have not, that are interested in the subject but have not really had any opportunities to get out and experience anything. So usually when we have our expeditions, we'll invite different people who's never been out, and we open it up to different people. So that's pretty much how I got involved with TAPS, and here I am now.
Cheers, Todd.
Awesome. Mark, what about you? How did you get into this Bigfoot subject? And
Well, like when you were young, everybody had to used to watch In Search Of. You always hear that, but really, what got me into it was a movie called, I think it was called Bigfoot Man or Myth, I believe it was. It was a documentary, came out about the same time, and they had some howls on there. What really got me, that's what really scared me. And growing up, I was reading about it, but later on, I joined the military, blah blah blah. And then when I moved here about 5 years ago, I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles again. Well, for the first time, then I realized a lot of the stuff was happening in Texas. I always thought it was up in the northwest up there, and I started looking at this, and I found out these forests are just really close to me. So I started going out by myself, basically kind of solo at a certain area, campground in the Sam Houston Forest, and I got some howls on it, and I was able to record those. And I never heard these type of howls before. So to me, now I sent them off to different people to analyze them, and they said that's what a Bigfoot sounds like, a howl. So, and a couple other times I've been out kind of hiking early in this, like 4 years ago, and I thought I saw looked like a head was looking at me at a distance, and I couldn't figure it out. So I can't say if it was or wasn't, but I tried to pull my camera out of the bag and focus on it, and it was gone. So I don't know if that was or was not, but the howls that I got on that recording really got me into it. And I met Todd online. We started talking about it, and went out a few times here and there and met a few people, and eventually got into TAPS. We went out one time and met Shane out there for a few minutes, and that's how we got into it, and that's how I got into it. It's just ever since, I guess.
Rest from there, yeah.
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. How did you get into this fabulous subject that
This is gonna be a
captivates
long
so
one.
many?
What'd you say? What was that, Todd?
I said this is going to be a long one.
No, I'm gonna make it short now. No, I grew up in Florida, so I was always used to hearing about the skunk ape and all that, and it's always piqued my interest. And then I went in the military and traveled all over, and had an encounter when I was at KI Sawyer out there in the Little Lake area. And so that's kind of where I got hooked into doing more and more investigations. And went out to Sam probably about 8 years ago with a guy that's with another group. And we were out there, and one morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, we kept hearing what sounded like the chatter, Gibeon chatter out there. So, which was kind of unusual to hear this chatter so far deep into Sam, not knowing too much about, Bigfoot and in Texas and all that. And so we just kept walking and felt like we were being stalked. And that night we get back to our camp. We had a tree pushed over near us. Just a lot of weird stuff, the howls and everything else. So from then on, I've just been hooked. That's my short version of it. There you go, Todd.
Hey, I don't care how long you go.
We won't talk about prison or anything like that. So there you go. How we really met. But anyway.
Maybe another show.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think Texas is Bigfoot country. I feel the same way as Michigan sometimes. It's very underrated compared to like the Pacific Northwest, but the number of sightings is actually pretty up there. Florida too. What do you guys think? What do you individually feel is where do they live and stuff in Texas? Do you think they live on the ground and stuff, underground? And how do you think your environment plays different than most environments across the U.S. for them?
Well, my feeling, we have a lot of swamps down here. We have a lot of creek bottoms, a lot of swampy areas, a lot of marsh. Even out at Sam Houston, some of the areas we go to, there's a lot of hiding places. But we don't have caves and those type things. But, I feel like that they probably just find very remote areas within the national forest and hide, since there's probably not, like I said, they don't have a lot of, I don't think there's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I don't think there's a lot of underground places probably down this area for them to hide.
There are a few little areas, in Sam that I'm going to take you to. It's really not a cave system per se, but it is limestone and it would provide good coverage. But
Gotcha.
that's way back though into Sam. I mean, that's, probably about 6-7 miles back into Sam. And again, like you said, I agree with what you said. Sam, what people don't realize is that Sam Houston is so remote in some areas that it would be easily for these animals to go to and we wouldn't see them. So, Todd's got a good point with that being said. So, and I also think too that the juveniles, I do think that they go up in the trees. I do think that's where they do hang out, is up in the trees at night. We found several structures up in the trees there in Sam. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, what I think possible what they can do is these creeks down here in Texas. They're very deep. They erode into the ground, and you have really sharp edges on the sides, high edges. And I think they might be able to burrow into those sides.
Yeah,
keep away from the sun, and come out at night. Mostly.
Yeah.
Or just blend in so well with the creek bottoms too.
Yeah. I mean,
and even
a
lot of those nests that we have found, you don't see them till you get up close, and they could be sitting in one of those nests watching us, 100 yards away, and we never even know they're there.
Oh yeah, the foliage here is
a lot of those nests.
The foliage in Texas is so thick down here. Of course, they call it the thickets. I mean, you could be walking, someone can be watching you from just a few feet away. That's how thick this stuff is.
Yeah, you'd never see them. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the wintertime, maybe they know you're coming. I could tell they probably, when the vegetation is more wide open, probably their senses protects them and, keep them more of a distance. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, because in winter, here in Michigan, obviously we get a lot of snow. Tracks we still can't find as many tracks as you would think in some of the areas that we go to. Or I've even came across tracks where it looked like a toddler was playing or jumping because the tracks go, and then all of a sudden there's a 15-foot gap between these tracks, and it looks like 2 feet landed. and they disappear. They eventually disappear. Have you guys found any trackways and stuff that or any strange things that lend to their abilities? Oh, there you go.
I brought this is a juvenile. This is one of the trackways that Shane and I found there in Sam Houston, right there at the Overflow Campground. There's just been a lot of, and where we usually go is an area called Camp Stubblefield. And there's an overflow area that's been showing a lot of activity lately. And I don't know what's causing that. But I mean, it's just the activity is incredible, especially with all the juveniles we're seeing out there, the tracks and all that. So it's kind of very promising to see the juveniles out there.
Yeah, and they definitely like to come up to the camp and watch us. We've got Mark got some good thermal of one back there.
Oh.
And we had, it's funny when we were out there, when he did that, I mean, there was other campers around. They didn't have a clue what was going on in that overflow, but we were going to come there. They were coming up close. Dave and Shane saw it, actually got a visual of it before Mark got it, called it on thermal a little while later.
Well, actually, we saw two. We found out the next morning there was actually two that were watching us. Yeah, when we flushed that one. So,
and that's when after Dave and Shane told us about it, and you, Todd, and your other son went looking, and I went to the right, far to the right, to I wanted to test my flare out, looking at you to see what you guys kind of look like on my flare, which type of pellet I can use. So I was looking to the left, and I zoomed then I turned it to the right in the opposite directions because I knew where you were, just kind of sighting through the trees, And then I got that blob. It didn't look like a tree because, the trees are vertical. You can tell the signatures. And this thing was thick. So I was viewing it.
Yeah. You're thinking, Dad, put on some weight.
And he came up to me. And then I told Shane after I got done, I said, "Hey, Shane, put this on your computer. Let me look at this a second here because it's just something looking odd in this." And that's when we caught it.
Yeah, you can most flares you can tell a human compared to something bigger, and it's amazing because most modern people are like at the campground are so oblivious to what's going on, normal animals compared to a Bigfoot. I mean, the Bigfoot just, I think they just play a part of it. Honestly, they see that and they could just utilize it. And it's kind of ridiculous. Also, I believe in some ways they're more like Native Americans, and they it seems like there's a little game they did with warriors and men coming up with this counting coop and running and tagging people, stealing stuff, going into the enemy camp, going unnoticed, stuff like that would signify your prowess. And then I just imagine how easily they are able to do that nowadays with modern people so distracted. I mean, most people go to bed at 10 p.m. Shut the lights off, turn the TV on, and there's this whole landscape for Bigfoot.
We've had that displayed a lot down there where we've been in the Sam, in that one area. That's what we talked about the other couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it amazes me because Sam Houston is not far from the city of Houston, so it is definitely one of the more busier national forest areas because people don't have far to go. So the campgrounds get pretty full there over the weekends, and there's people hiking, and there's mountain bikers, and
they're everywhere.
It amazes me how much activity there is in that national forest, considering that there's so many people in it. And I mean, Mark and I have had several interesting experiences out there.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, we've been grunted at. We've had an owl that screamed at us. It started off as an owl that screamed at us.
Yeah, that's the one you heard. That's the one you heard, but I think I heard it, but that's when I kind of got. Is that when I kind of got nauseated and? Yeah,
Mark got. We don't know if it was anything like that. But he got sick afterwards. Didn't affect me. I don't know why, but it was close and it was powerful, and I think we had, if that's the same night I'm thinking, we had a couple of trees get knocked down further out. We heard a couple of trees fall down, I believe, one or two, if that was the same night.
Yeah, that's the same night as the recorder kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't figure
Oh,
that
it missed it. Yeah. The recorder, for some reason, he had the recorder going, but for some reason it didn't catch that scream. It was weird.
because when I record, I would go about every 15 minutes and stop and turn it back on, so I can kind of understand where the so I can keep track better. And at that time, where that thing happened with the owl thing that Todd heard, and I kind of got nauseated and dizzy, I said, "Well, let me just check on the audio later on." And in that period, the audio was blank. Everything before and everything after, but that 15-minute portion in there was just blank. I have no clue.
That is so weird.
That is just one of the weird things. I mean,
It's a number of things that we've experienced as a team.
Yeah.
Technical issues, things that paranormal things that seem that just out of place, or what do you think? It's all Sasquatch? Do you think it's something else? What do you guys personally think Sasquatch is?
So here's my thought. We're going to let's talk about the paranormal stuff first of all.
All right, let's go.
I wish Shane was here because just to hear Shane tell it. So Shane and I went to the Big Thicket up here in Texas, and there's a lot of weird stories and stuff that come out of the Big Thicket and people disappearing. It's very interesting to read about the events that go on in the Big Thicket. So and there's always activity because nobody goes out to the Big Thicket. You hardly see anybody at the Big Thicket. So Shane and I went out there, and he's telling me all the stuff that's happened to him out there. And so it's probably about 10 o'clock at night. We're walking down a trail right by our camp, and we're very off trail. I mean, we're way back. I mean, Todd got his truck stuck back there, so we were pretty far back. And so we walked down this trail, and the only thing I can relate it to is the movie Predator. Remember the movie Predator with the trees?
Oh yeah.
When the trees were pulsating. Well, that's exactly what happened to Shane and I. I had my flare out because I heard all this commotion off to my right, and I just wanted to see what it was. And I kept telling Shane, I said, something's not right. So I put my flare on the tree, and sure enough, man, it was pulsating. So I thought, okay, well, it's equipment malfunction. So Shane got his flare out, and we stood right next to each other, and his was doing the same thing as mine. I mean, it was literally pulsating. And we're getting about a 82, 84 degrees, on the therm. But the trees are like literally pulsating, which makes no sense at all. And it was probably about, 98 degrees, 100% humidity. So it was really miserable. So I told Shane, I said, Shane, just start walking out there. Let's just see what happens. So he starts walking out there, and he gets out to where these trees were. And next thing you know, you can actually see where it's actually moved to another set of trees, literally. And then the temp dropped to like 78 degrees within like a matter of seconds. And Shane yells back. He's like, man, he goes, I don't like this. He goes, I don't like the way it feels. It's a dead feeling here, and I need to get out. So I have no idea what that was. Possibly because I know out in the Big Thicket, there's some Indian burial grounds. So I don't know if we stumbled upon an Indian burial ground or not. But I'll tell you, it was pretty freaky. And I've spent a lot of times in the woods, and I've never been that much on edge
There's
as we were.
There's a rich history of strange activity in the Big Thicket area as well. And something that happened to me, and this was in Oklahoma. I don't know if I told you this story, Dave. I think I told Mark. I've been on 2 expeditions in Oklahoma around the Honobia area, spelled Honobia, but it's pronounced Honobi. Very, very. I know Dave's done research near that area. Just lots of activity in that area. But anyway, while we were there, we saw some type of craft. It was hovering over the mountain. They call them mountains. I call them big hills, really. But that we think the Sasquatch come at night we go down to an area. We stayed at church camp. We would go back in this acreage behind the church camp, and the Sasquatch, they'll come down there at night. We just go down there, build a fire, and hang out. They come see us, and we think they come down from that mountain. I have no idea if it's related, but we sat there and watched that craft hover there for 20 minutes. Finally got tired of watching and just went back to doing something else, and I don't know when it left. Have no clue if it was related, but I just thought it's quite odd. Here I am up here doing Bigfoot research, and I see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, how odd is it that a lot of the stuff happens in the same areas? Is it the areas? Is it what is it?
Yeah,
like you guys were, like Dave was saying, Native American mounds and stuff. It could be mounds. I know Native Americans actually had their own, no-go zones of evil places, is what they would say, that they didn't even go there. So I know there's a lot of places in pretty much every state that Native tribes, different tribes had of these no-go zones, and of course Sasquatch and all these other cryptids and stuff.
right.
Have you guys ever got any other reports of like chupacabras or any other cryptids, dogman down there, that maybe you personally have heard from a person that you believe or witness or anything?
I have not met anyone who's seen anything like that. I haven't, but I have read some reports, I think in the Big Thicket area, of dogmen. But I've not seen any evidence, and I've not talked to anybody personally that's seen anything like that. I don't know about you guys.
No, I mean,
I've heard of the Sam
just the
Houston.
stories. Big Thicket, that's about it.
Yeah, well, I heard of the Sam Houston. They found tracks of like big, long, like big bird tracks, but I think it's kind of explained that away is because of there's a bunch of loose emus out there.
Oh, okay.
So I think some of the people maybe you've seen them if that's
Yeah.
true, that the lost emus are running around out there.
Might-
But they're saying they were like big like bird track type of things, so
Yeah.
weird looking track. So
Yeah.
That
but
is
I haven't
interesting.
heard anything. I haven't heard anything from anybody really on that. I mean,
Nothing like y'all have up there in Michigan, I don't think.
Oh yeah, we have several things. I've seen I guess a dog man is what else to call it, It was a wolf that got up and ran on 2 legs as fast as it was running on 4, so
That's great.
wow. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Where are you at in Michigan?
We're lower Michigan, actually, mid to lower Michigan, as you would say. But basically, our state, is pretty much filled with Sasquatch from our research, and Dog Man is running around, and I've also encountered a humanoid entity, a goblin. If you ever watched Lord of the Rings and you've watched Gollum, that deformed thing that's always have after the ring,
yeah.
I think it looked like that, except for it was 7 foot tall, peeking out, looking at me.
Holy cow!
My basically, long story short, me and my friend had seen it. It was tree peeking at us, basically, and got my dad, and he had basically seen it. And I had called it the stick man because it was so skinny. Its arms were as skinny as my wrist. I could probably break it over my knee, so that's why I called it the stick man.
Holy cow!
People, it looks like the rake before, but this was before the creepypasta was made, or the Slender Man, way before all that. So.
Have there
Michigan
been
has
other
a few
in that
things.
area?
That particular area had Bigfoot, Stickman, and the dog man I seen is within 20 miles. So it's 3 different cryptid entities that were within 20 miles of each other.
Yeah, I don't think I
Yeah,
want to
and
run.
that's in lower Michigan. So we got northern Michigan and the UP that's even more remote.
Yeah.
Yep. That's interesting, though.
Aren't they up north up there? Are the a lot of the Indian the natives up there have history about that type of? I got
Oh, yeah.
Wendigos or
Yeah, Wendigos. Yeah. Yeah, the tribes here in Michigan. There's three main ones, and then there's some little ones towards the Detroit. But they all had stories of wild men, Sasquatch, and they all had stories of Wendigos and little people actually is too. But um, basically, there was they referred to them as a tribe of people, of course. I know up north they had specifically where the women would go into these swamps to collect huckleberries and different types of plants, and the Sasquatch would sometimes kidnap these women. So there's a lot of those stories of northern Michigan in these cedar swamps, and
Oh yeah.
it's very interesting. And
Yes.
switching topics back to Texas, as you were talking about the emus, you guys actually have are beginning to have a exotic problem, right? With like big cats, and Texas is very thrivable for a lot of these exotic animals. And
Yeah.
I know,
Whether
do you guys ever come across any of that or worry about those things out in Sam Houston from the Houston area?
I found a big cougar track out in Sam, and one of the older guys that's gone out there, he's actually caught a cougar on camera. So we got some big cats running through Sam, and the thing is too now that we're starting to see, not yet, but because black bear used to be really native here to Texas, and then they got hunted out, but now they're starting to come back in around the Shreveport
yeah.
area up there. So that's a good thing that we're going to start seeing a bear population. So
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, what they call black panther, although I don't think they're really a panther. I'm not sure what they are, but sightings as well in Texas.
Yeah, cougars, mountain lions can't be black. Supposedly, there's no official confirmation of that, but you guys could have what is it, jaguars and stuff, which are
yeah,
like pumas or
That's
whatever.
that's one of the theories.
Those can be black.
Yeah.
It
I
is
know they
interesting.
had a lot of jaguars coming up from Mexico a long time ago.
Right.
Used to have a lot of sightings on that. So I don't know. It's just I think there's cougars out there.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're slowly
Oh, yeah.
making their way through, but
Oh, Roland
yeah.
got a big one on his game camera out there. One of the guys that had that encounter out there at Sam, he's got a picture of a cougar on his camera.
Yeah.
So I know Texas has a very bad hog problem. Is it really that bad? And then how do you think Sasquatch is doing with all that? And
I think they're probably a good food source for Sasquatch.
Oh, absolutely.
We definitely we're not short of hogs. I mean, there's hunters, there's groups that go out every weekend they're out hunting hogs all over.
Now, what
the place.
about like Hogzilla reports or these big giant hogs? You guys hear reports of those?
I mean, even on our place in East Texas, we get some pretty big hogs. I'm sure some of the ones I've seen are probably 800 pounds. So
that's big. I mean,
I'm just guessing. I mean, they're huge, but
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, they get. Yeah, I mean, I've seen. I don't know how big they say these hogzillas are, but I mean, it doesn't.
800 pounds is, I would say, up there.
Yeah, but I mean, we get some big hogs down here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a couple of years ago, we had a lady killed Easter here.
That's right. Yeah.
Remember that at Liberty out there somewhere?
Yeah, in Liberty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, another problem we're having is with the coyotes. These coyotes are crossbreeding with dogs, and they're becoming more aggressive. So there's a lot of There's more, seeing more aggression from coyotes than what we used to have, as well.
They're mating with domestic dogs.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Now that's. What are they calling these things?
They still call
hybrid
them
coyote.
Yeah.
Hybrid, basically.
Yeah. But
I know out here we have coy wolves and stuff, coyotes that bred with wolves and stuff.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of hybrids of those around here.
are they more
But I've
aggressive?
never. Yeah, they're definitely they're bigger.
Yeah.
They're bigger than normal, and I've never really heard about domesticating dogs with coyotes. So as much as what you're talking about, that's very interesting. I wonder what kind of things that will turn out.
Yeah.
What I mean, are these things started get up evolving and walking? Is that what I seen, or you know?
Are they what? Say again? Sorry.
Coyotes and mating with wolves and stuff. Is that possibly what I had seen? Are these things evolving, or it seems like the way modern society is pushing the animal kingdom is we have a rise of a lot more of these creatures and stuff, and I just wonder how much of it is our doing and how much of it is already there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Do you guys feel like there's more sightings of things now, or there's like a population boom of all these Bigfoot and other creatures? And
I believe that there's a big population boom of Sasquatches that we're seeing now out in Sam. I don't ever remember, and I've been out Sam for a long time, and I don't ever remember seeing this many juvenile tracks, the sightings that we've had. I mean, gosh, it's crazy how it's going out there. It's kind of like stepping back into Jurassic Park. I hate to say that, but if you look, you're going to see. I mean, you're going to at least hear or see something.
Yeah. If you just hang out there 2-3 days, you're going to have an experience.
Yeah, you're going to have an experience.
If you know what you're looking for, I guess. I mean,
right. Well, it's funny. For example, I mean, I took my wife out. You guys were there. I mean, it was her first night. She's always been interested in these animals anyway, and we were camping out there at the overflow. And it was so funny because we had a lot of activity going on around the camp. She heard it. A couple other women heard it too. So, they were kind of like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. So we went to bed that night, and I don't wake up for anything. So I don't know, it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden she's like, honey. And I'm not going to wake up to that. So all of a sudden she starts yelling, Dave, wake up, listen. So I woke up and I heard bipedal footsteps outside the tent. I heard the shuffling. I heard everything. And I just looked at her. I'm like, okay. I said, it's Bigfoot. I'm going back to sleep. I just rolled over because you get so used to it out there at Sam. I mean, I hate to say that, but you just get so used to the activity. So I just rolled over and went back to sleep. Well, the next morning, one of the guys that was out there, we told him what happened. He goes, well, let's go look. So we went over where our tent was, and sure enough, you could see where there were twigs that were twisted, where a large animal had walked through. We found footprints right up to the tent. We even found a place where it actually sat down right outside the tent. We found butt print. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, of course, now, she's a believer, and she's like, I want to go out again. So, it's kind of cool, I
kind of got lucky there. Not. I think most Bigfooters, when they do that with their significant others, it's the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know. I got lucky with. I got lucky. I got lucky. So.
Now, I think they come and mess with people in that campground a lot too, because we've run into people that have had experiences and didn't know what they were hearing, but it scared them to death. Mm-hmm. And then we have found abandoned tents back there.
Yeah.
In those woods. So I'm thinking people are getting run off quite often. Probably not talking about it, I'm sure. I mean, what are they going to say? I mean, if you don't believe in it, you're sure not going to go around telling people so, got run off by a big old huge hairy something or other.
Right.
Yeah, especially if they don't even know what it is or what happened. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. So I think that happens probably quite a bit in that area. I mean, it's only going to get. There's more people probably going out to Sam Houston than what they're used to. So there's nothing. They're going to probably try to run people off. They probably don't want people, around. Either that, or they just enjoy messing with the people and they get their kicks out of it. And now they're getting a lot of opportunity because you got people staying out there all the time now. even during the week.
I think it's more of a curiosity thing too. Like you and I've talked about too. God, they're curious. Just like we are. They don't want to know what the heck we're doing, and So, and you're right.
Yeah.
They like to mess with us. I mean, we know that. So,
yeah. Well, I believe the same thing. They're just as curious as us as we're curious of them.
Right.
Hey, Mark, tell about that time we got grunted at.
Oh yeah, what was about 4 months ago?
No, it was longer. It was longer than that, I think.
About
But
4 or 5
it
months
seems like I think that COVID just screwed up my sense of time.
This is during the COVID time. We would go out to the Stubblefield campground area, the bridge area, because all the government campground, everything was shut down. So this is the prime time to go
that's
out.
right. That's right. It was during COVID. You're right.
So I just went out there. We were just going to try to get some vocals on the house because it's a very good area because of where the sound travels in that area. It's along the river. And we were parked along this road kind of next to the river. It's like a causeway that shoots out. It's really hard to explain. You have to look at it on the map. But anyways, just before the sun went down, we're sitting there, and I heard some water. It's like something was crossing a creek or something. You can hear the splashing. So that's fine and dandy. Could have been anything, And then basically when the sun went down, I kind of did I call it a mouth pop. I don't know why I did. I just wanted to do it, Sometimes I would just like that, a pop.
Oh yeah.
And immediately after that, this is what I heard. It sounded like coming from the wood line. It was like a
Yeah.
And it did it exactly the same way it did it twice. It was almost the same syllables. That's the word for it.
To me, it was equivalent to, as far as the depth, the sound, the quality was like a gorilla.
Yeah.
It was obvious. It wasn't a hog. I can tell you that right now. And it sounded more like a gorilla to me.
Yeah. And I was standing up, and Todd was in his chair, in his lawn chair, and I felt it. I felt the intensity of this, whatever it was, this sound, and not like going through me, but I felt it like hit me. It was that much bass in it. So it did that twice in a row. And then just seconds later, in another direction, probably about 150 feet from there, we heard a big tree crack. Like, it sounded like a tree was just being snapped in half.
Wow. And
it was kind of funny because right after that just happened, we kind of looked at each other and like, what do we do now?
Hey, I swear that thing was responding to that mouth pop. I don't know why. I don't know if that was a mating call or what.
Oh, it's to me, it was definitely a response because I did the two pops in succession.
It was immediate.
Then we had the two grunt grunt noises.
Yeah.
Two of them in succession then. And this is seconds later, you had the tree crack about 150 feet to the left of it. But
so you think maybe it was a warning or something?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it was not a warning, but I think it was a response.
Interesting.
Well,
nothing.
The way it sounded, I don't think it liked it for whatever reason. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't like it. I don't know why. What does that mean? I've heard, we've talked about the mouth pops in the past. I've heard reports of that.
Mm-hmm.
People talking about them making sounds like that. So what does it mean? I don't know. But I don't think it liked it.
That's wild.
No.
I mean,
some of the times I think, I hear stories like that. I always think, well, you always hear about more Bigfoot in the area. And what if it's the older ones thinking that it's a juvenile who made that sound, who messed up? And now, when he's supposed to be quiet, he's not. Now, is they adult, trying to scold? What he
Well, we
perceived as a juvenile?
Yeah. Well, in that case, I mean, we were sitting on everything was closed down, so we were sitting right on the road. So we were out in the open. I feel like it was watching us.
Okay.
That's what I feel like. So I feel like it had a good view of us because we were sitting out there in the middle. I mean, we had recorders sitting there on the road. We were just sitting in lawn chairs right there along the road because nobody was coming through hardly. You'd see half fishermen in the evenings and then they leave. I don't know. It was just it was
Well, I kind of think back on it now. That noise I heard getting into the water, like splashing. I think that might have been it or them coming across.
Probably was, yeah.
But they have to walk they must walk so quietly because I couldn't tell when it howled at us, when it grunted at us.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it felt like it was just feet for me. That's how intense it was. It was so strong and bassy. But was it 20 feet from me or was it 100 feet from me?
I can tell you this, in Oklahoma, the woods are similar to here in a lot of ways. And a lot of crunchy leaves and stuff. They would come up, we would see them, you could see them. They would come up close to us. And I never once heard any of them move. Right. I sat there and watched them. You could see them move, but you couldn't hear them.
Yep. That's the same experience I had in Oklahoma too. So,
yeah.
I
don't know how they do that. I mean, how do you walk through those leaves and not make any noise?
I don't know.
Probably just.
I saw one
thing I could think of is like when I was in the military, we were going through the woods. You just really soft steps, as soft as you can probably do them. Just slow and precise.
We had one sitting there because you could see their eyes, and one was standing up. I think one was squatting in front of it, and the one standing up, you could see him turn his head, and he ran off a little ways, like over to our right. You could see him. You could see his eyes turn, and you could see him run off. Never heard it. I'm like, that is so weird, man.
Yeah. That's just, I don't know. It's.
She sees Todd. She's getting excited. No, she sees Todd. That's what's hilarious. Is she's getting all excited. I'm sitting there holding her because she hears your voice and she's getting all like, she wants to start barking. I'm like, just stop.
Going back to the wild hogs, I have more fear of the wild hogs than I do Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I have. I'm more alert looking for them things when I'm going through the woods and
that's
Bigfoot. It's just,
that's really why I pack than anything because you don't know. You don't want to come home indoors and it's in a bad mood. It may not be pretty.
Yeah.
Even in our place in East Texas, we catch them on the game cams, and they migrate around. I think they migrate somewhat. So sometimes we've got a lot of yopon out there. Sometimes they're in the yopon, and I think they stay in the yopon a lot. But I was there last weekend, and I went all through the woods because I've been going through. It'd been several years since I went through there, and I always go through there to see if I can find any Bigfoot type, signs. I've never have, and I don't guess that they're passing through that area. And I'm kind of surprised because we have an underground spring that, it's above ground, but it comes from underground oasis. It's very clean water. It comes through there, and the woods behind us is pretty remote. It goes back into an area that's very remote. So I'll be surprised if they don't pass through, but I just don't see any of the, in Sam Houston, we run into those structures. We run into those nest-looking things. I never see that on my property. Every time I go up through there, I look to see if I can find anything, and I don't see anything, which to me authenticates things even a little bit even more because why would I only be seeing that it's all East Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I see all these structures and these weird twists and these weird tree breaks and the structure looking things in Sam Houston, but not on my place?
Yeah.
Or like Elizabeth's, her place. She got all that. You see it on her place. That's very similar to, I mean, it's very similar to Grapeland, to our place. And I don't see it on my place.
I mean, if it's randomness, it should be randomly in there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what kind of structure you guys are saying? Twists and stuff. Are you guys finding like things that look like not
Tree
necessarily a teepee, but maybe a teepee out?
We found some pretty incredible structures out there. I mean, definitely you could tell where whatever built it had thumbs because they were so intricately woven within each other. There's no other reason. It had to have thumbs in order to build it. And I mean, we found what there in Sam off the pipeline. We found what that one structure that was probably what about 8 feet off the ground,
Yeah.
tall. I mean, and it was wide, but it was so well hidden you would have never seen it. It was almost like a lookout,
Right.
and it was so intricately woven. It was crazy how it just all came together. So obviously something built it. And what was really neat is there was a log that had actually been driven into the ground that had been broken to support this structure in several places. So, yeah.
I think that might have been a hunting blind for them. Along the pipeline, all those deer feeding
Yeah,
along
probably.
the pipeline.
Probably. Or a good lookout too, to see who's coming down a pipeline.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think Dave, I think your dog hears my dog barking.
Yeah, the structure thing's very interesting. Some of it doesn't really make sense, but maybe it's communication. Who knows? I have seen what you guys are describing, like maybe a hut for them or a blind that would possibly, I guess, out camouflage even more, I guess, than what they already are capable of. But it's a lot of it seems like it's just ambush points. I have found where it seemed like they manipulated the area for deer to have more obstacles in their way to maybe go slower or have to jump over a certain thing, and then there would be a nice hut with an opening that something could rush out in the nick of time.
Well,
And
I'll have to send you that. I'll have to send you that nest room that we found.
I actually got some that flare pictures that you guys were talking about earlier. Josh had sent me.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
yeah,
You guys want to show that and talk about that?
Yeah, I saw them. I sent those to Josh earlier this evening.
Yeah, I don't know which order you guys want them. It looks like I'll just start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, talk about that.
Yeah, that's what it looked like in the flare. That's what I was telling you. It didn't look like a tree. You can kind of see how the trees, the signatures, you can see them, but this one caught my. It just didn't look like a tree to me. That's why I had focused on it.
And that's after it turned around. When you started taking it, was facing us, right?
Yeah.
We get this other one.
Okay, that's the same one. It's just kind of because it was
Okay,
moving.
So this is when it's facing you.
Yeah, and some of these are kind of. I had to enlarge these because, as you can see, the bigger ones you've seen at the end there.
Well, I mean, already you can tell it from those two pictures. It obviously was moving, and it's very human-like in this one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
the money shot right there. That's it right there.
That's
Look at that.
As you could tell, it was facing you. Then I was able to zoom in on the turn itself. So,
Yeah, the video is really spectacular.
I mean, that's amazing, guys.
You can clearly see that conical shaped head. The structure. So
yeah, absolutely.
It looks like a person's. I mean, it looks like something's on 2 feet standing sideways compared to the other picture.
Exactly.
and you
Right.
can kind of see
in
how
this
the
one.
head kind of leans forward. Yeah, and that's the walk off portion.
I mean, look at that. It's
Yeah, you can't dispute that. So
now. How far away are we talking about? Because I know in these other shots, it looks like I would say what 40 yards or so.
We figured out where it was at. We went back and recreated it, and I would say that was, I don't know, 60 yards. Would you say, Mark?
something like that. Because when we went back to recreated it, this is when the everything started. The vegetation started to bloom really good. Because we went back a couple weeks after that to do this, to redo the kind of to do the reshot, and a lot of vegetation was already greened up really bad because it greens up fast here in Texas.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing stuff, guys. I mean, that was great pieces of evidence, honestly, because you have this whole shot plus the video. I mean, the video is going to show even more.
yeah.
I've had some couple people that we know that I won't mention any names have looked at it and have said that that's probably one of the best shots they've ever seen on a flare of Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, when you have this motion with the arms and it's going sideways and stuff, I mean, that's a great piece of evidence for people to look at because you have all these different angles and movements, and I mean, you can clearly tell it's bipedal.
Yeah, it's funny because they'll be like, "Yeah, that's definitely a Bigfoot you got there. It was a good capture," and so.
I mean, even the picture you just showed up before, just now the bigger one, kind of moving off.
Yeah.
You can actually, it looks, you can almost like you can see the knee bend.
Yeah, the bend, yeah.
Foot bend down there.
Yeah, it looks like you see a bend in the arm kind of hanging down.
The swing, yeah.
It's not a very human-like posture to walk. You know, if that was a person in a suit, which you guys were there, obviously it's not someone trying to hoax you. People don't really stand like that, let alone walk like that, right?
Yeah,
it's very abnormal.
Because in fact, I know when I got that flare picture, I knew exactly where everybody was because, like I said, Todd and his son were to the left, way to the left. Because in fact, Todd was coming up to me. Remember we kept giving me Todd?
Because we had walked back there. Joseph and I had walked back there where Dave and Shane had seen it. And I'm thinking when we walked back there, maybe it looped around to the right. And that's when I walked back by you, and maybe that's about the time you caught it at some point after we went over there to the right.
It just I know nobody was out there in front of me in that direction, for a fact. But
this whole notion of there's people out there hoaxing us, researchers, it's baloney. I mean, there's no one out there running around that sneaky could be able to do that in front of you guys, sneak away, get away.
No.
There's just no way. People are not that quiet, even when they're trying to be. And they can't move that fast and be quiet.
Right. Nor look like that anyway.
No, it looks like it has bulk to it. It looks like it does have a conical head. And
it had bulk. I'm telling you, when Shane and I saw the visual, I mean, first, it was big. Once we looked at it the next morning and saw how much space it occupied, we're like, okay, well then that makes sense what we got in the flare. I mean, it was big. It was probably about 8 feet, at least 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Were you on the expedition down there in Florida? Were you?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What's his name? He has a podcast.
Carrie
Arnold. Carrie Arnold. I just forgot his name for a second there. When he was telling about his encounter, and he said it was very barrel-like. I'm almost tempted to let him see this is it was that picture of the side view, if that's what the kind of barrel shape he saw.
Yeah. I think he describes him as like the Big Show from wrestling.
Right.
He said it was
kind of a
barrel size, and I'm just kind of curious if I ever sent it to him and kind of if that's the type of what the size it looked like to him,
Yeah. I think you guys, definitely be a good show to get on there. And, a lot of these creatures, and they just look so abnormally proportionate to each other, from like Florida skunk apes into what we were hearing and just being described from the people down there. And then even in Texas, super giants that you hear in Alaska, I guess. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
do you guys think there's a reason for the difference, or do you guys think it's just a general? I mean, like us, we have people who are that big and people who are small.
I think environment could have a lot to do with it. I think that just like different people have different traits, across the world based on the environment they live in. I mean, their diet. I mean, maybe there is some different subspecies. You hear talk about how different they look in different areas of the United States. You have some that look more like gorillas or like an ape, and then some that
Or more
look
human-like.
more human. You hear all about the different colors, different a lot of the researchers that I've talked to over the years, they have names or specific names for specific Sasquatch that they continue to see in their research areas based on certain features that they have. They're all, I think they're just like us. I think they're all unique and probably all shapes and sizes and colors and, ugly ones and pretty ones. I don't know if they're all ugly, but
All right. So I'll give you guys a harder question. What's your opinion on the Nephilim theory that these things are, Nephilim or monsters or something sort of that?
Todd, I'll let you take this one. You and I have had long discussions over this one. This is all Todd.
First of all, let me say my theory changes every day. No, but I follow the Sasquatch Genome Project. I followed that. I feel like it's very legitimate. There's stuff about that project that I've heard that some of the findings that lead me to believe that there's more to them on the nuclear side, on the nuclear DNA side, that doesn't really make sense from just a natural DNA sequence. I am a Christian, so I think there could be something to that. I don't know. I'm back and forth on it because I hear everybody. I respect everyone's opinion. I respect everyone's theory, and sometimes I'll hear theories. There's you've got the woo factor. You got people that are just flesh and blood, just undiscovered species. I'll hear theories that make sense from that standpoint, just like the supernatural. A lot of people, or supernatural, the paranormal type stuff that people call paranormal. Maybe it's just type of physics, quantum physics, or whatever that we don't understand yet. But so we don't understand it. So what do we call it? Paranormal. But that brings to mind, if they do have some advanced abilities or knowledge with quantum physics, why do they? Where did they get that? Where did they develop those advanced capabilities that we don't have, or that we haven't grasped, or that so I do tend to lean that direction a lot sometimes, because a lot of the people, a lot of my friends that were on part of the Sasquatch Genome Project tend to believe that theory as well. And a lot of it is based on some of the DNA. Melba doesn't like to talk a lot about that because she's just been, just chastised. I mean, she doesn't really want to be part of the Bigfoot community anymore because of that. But there's some pretty interesting stuff that even in her interviews, and she'll mention about what people haven't caught on to, that people don't, and it has to do with some of the what she's found, and I think a lot of people don't realize that she wasn't the only one involved. There were several university and major labs involved in this that pulled out for whatever reason, after these findings, and I think there's reason. You know, I think there's some. I think there's other reasons that they pulled out. I think there's probably some, involvement by other entities that may have caused them to not want to.
Yeah,
continue.
they probably got told to.
Government.
Yes. So,
like we've talked about too, like Todd, you and I have said too, that I think what, like you were just getting to about the whole thing about the Nephilims and stuff. And we do have the DNA that's showing that, okay, well, if Sasquatch is an ape, all across the board, the DNA shows it's an ape. We'll release it. Why not release it?
exactly. And
That's my question. Why not release it?
and I also feel if they're just an ape, we would already have one in the cage.
Right.
We would already have one.
Exactly.
You know. And again, like you said, why hide it? Why would you even hide that? If we had gorillas out in the woods here, they're not going to hide that.
Nope.
So, what is the reasoning for keeping it quiet? Well, yeah, it goes back. It goes to me. I think it's their origin. It's something with their origin, and I think it's known. I think it's known. I think the government knows this. And going back to the DNA stuff, there's some stuff about the DNA that hasn't been totally released. And I know nothing. You know, I don't know nothing about DNA. I just know what I listen to it, and I try to put it in a understand. But I've heard statements regarding that DNA and the word not natural used more than once on the nuclear side.
Yep.
From my understanding, you can follow a DNA, you can follow the hybridization from the beginning of when the hybridization took place throughout to to current times. They can look back and see when, tell you the initial hybridization took place 10,000 years ago or whatever. Well, there's natural progression, I think, and I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but I think there's a natural progression with the DNA that you can look at it and you can see this natural progression. But in this DNA that they've seen, I don't think they're seeing this natural progression.
Right.
So what does that mean? I don't know. It's just, but there was a lot of credible people, or people that I consider credible in the Bigfoot field, that were involved in this study.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah,
A lot of good evidence samples that were sent too.
yeah.
A lot of evidence samples that got lost.
I've actually been out in the field with some of the evidence providers, and most of them tend to have the same belief system that they're Nephilim. Now, I think you have a lot of people out there that think they're related to aliens, or they're alien related somehow. Well, I guess you could look at it both ways. I guess if you're not a Christian, you believe more in that type of stuff, I could see where the same theory could probably apply somewhat.
Right. Yeah.
There's definitely, either way, I think there's definitely way more to them. And, and talking about, I know a lot of researchers don't want to talk about the paranormal stuff. And I get that when you're trying to prove the existence of something that nobody believes in. I mean, I got family members I don't even talk to about it because they laugh at me. So
yeah,
if you're already trying to prove existence to people like that, well, then you throw in, all this other
Spaceships,
or weird stuff that you run into. Well, you're sure not gonna draw them into your world, believing, understanding or believing what you're telling them. I mean, it irritates me. I mean, it definitely irritates me when you talk to family. I mean, okay, so it makes me, I want to ask them. So, You know, I'm not a liar. You think I'm lying now all of a sudden?
Right.
Think now I'm all of a sudden a liar? But anyway, yeah, I can see why a lot of them don't want to talk about it. But it's hard to deny when you listen. You know, I've spent a lot of time. I listen to a lot of the different shows, a lot of the interviews. I really enjoy listening to the interviews because I've learned a lot from interviews, and from eyewitness accounts in interviews, because you start to see these patterns. And in addition to that, there's a lot of them that talk about strange activity, strange orbs, strange, lots of strange different things regarding the subject. I don't think we've got that many liars out there making stuff up. I tend to believe that most people out there, most of these people that are brave enough to come onto these shows and tell about their what they saw or what their experience, that who knows will hear their story, and they're either going to make fun of them or not. But that takes some guts to get out there and first of all tell a story like that, and secondly to tell a story that's so far out to other people. And I think it's just hard to. I think it'd be almost arrogant to say that there's not more to it based on just that alone. There's too many people. There's too many people that are seeing strange things. Now, again, is it paranormal? Is it just science? Is it some type of quantum physics, whatever, something we don't understand, abilities we don't have? But if they didn't have some type of, I understand they're master of the woods. I know that when you've lived your whole life in the woods, you're going to have heightened senses. You're going to have capabilities that we'll never understand. I do get that. Mm-hmm. Some of that could be that, but that still doesn't explain the electronic equipment being affected, the orbs that you've seen.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe there's a natural reason when you hear a researcher talk about the footprints ending somewhere out of the blue. Well, maybe there's something natural. Maybe they can jump far.Maybe they jumped in a tree. I don't know. But when it comes to lights, electronic equipment being affected, well, what what capabilities are going to cause affect electronics?
That's true.
I don't know, but again, I could be totally wrong, but I just think there's more to it. There's too much out there, too much evidence that I feel there's more to it.
I think people are getting to this place where they can't deny it anymore. A lot of the old time Bigfoot people didn't want to put it into the reports that maybe they've seen some orbs right before they seen the Bigfoot or anything like that. And now it's like the lost cryptids. If we see this out in the same area, we're gonna say that that's what happened. It's the truth. Is it related? We don't know, but we should document it and put it as a piece of a puzzle because it might fit into the general Bigfoot puzzle piece, or it's completely something else. But same areas, you should at least be prepared to have a frame of reference in case you encounter it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
You think about this, 10 years ago, the government would tell you there's no such thing as UFOs. But now basically the Navy's come out with all these videos, and they're basically saying they're unidentified flying objects now. So there is hope for Bigfoot that that they will acknowledge it in the future sometime. But
well, I don't know. It's going to be interesting though if they do come out and say, yes, there is a Bigfoot. Yeah. Because as we've said and talked about, that the whole scientific world's going to be rocked to its very core, because I have a feeling that DNA is going to be showing a lot more human side than ape side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think if that ever comes out, think about what it's going to do to the scientific world, the religious side, And then you got to think about the big industries, the lumber industries, the oil and
Exactly.
gas industries.
Yeah.
I mean, just the impact that that's going to have.
You know what? 7 years ago, I would have never. I mean, I used to blow off all the woo stuff, so that's my biggest crock. It's just flesh and blood. I used to, that was my theory. The more I've, there's, and it's not only the Sasquatch stuff. It's I've read all the missing 411 books. There's a lot of really strange stuff going on.
Yeah.
I almost feel like there's more to this whole subject than just Sasquatch, and I feel like there's a relationship between this and other things. One of the things that David Paulides, I've heard him when I've been to a couple of times when he spoke, been to a couple of conferences when he spoke, but his answer a lot of times when people ask, well, what do you think it is? Because he doesn't know. I mean, or if he does, he's not giving his theory because he can't prove it. But at least once he's mentioned, well, if you want to understand, I can't tell you what I believe, and I can't remember how he worded it. He said, read the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker. And, it's about the Skinwalker Ranch up there in Utah. And all the strange things that go on that ranch, the George Knapp, and, I know the government had been involved in doing some research up there. So my whole theories over time, and again, I don't have an exact theory, but my belief system from 6-7 years ago has really evolved. And it's all due to eyewitness reports. And of course, the internet provides a lot more, capability. Like I said, I mean, before the internet, I never even knew they, I thought it was just Pacific Northwest animal,
Right.
So, I mean, there's so much information out there. I mean, you've got all the podcasts like this. You've got all the, it makes you realize when you start listening to all these interviews, interviews that you do on your show and all these other shows, podcasts that do interviews and Sasquatch Chronicles, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people having experiences and a lot of having sightings. And when you start listening to all these stories, you start finding little patterns. You start seeing repeated stuff, repeated behavior, repeated traits that you can't really, there's so many. I've almost thought about sitting down and putting together a spreadsheet of all the repeat traits, everything from like swaying, the swaying. Everybody talks about them swaying, seeing one sway, stuff like that. I mean, there's so many different traits that you hear over and over again, and different behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there definitely is, and we have a member who profiles Sasquatch in a particular way, and he actually has a number of key points of data that is very intriguing. He has a bunch of reports of people getting peed on by a Sasquatch, actually, or hens and stuff like that, and just different circumstances of patterns that relate. And it just seems like they definitely do these things on purpose. And sometimes maybe it's
to
prove,
to
prove stuff.
It's funny that you mentioned that same thing. We Mark and I used to have a guy that we went out with. That was one of his stories. He used to go stay out in Sam Houston a week at a time, and he mentioned about his tent getting peed on in the middle of the night while he was sleeping in it, waking him up.
Yeah. I remember that because he told me he just heard this water just going and going and going and going.
I think I drank a lot of water.
Then again, he also said, I didn't get out of the tent after that. I just, stayed in the whole night.
Yeah, I don't think I would have gotten out either.
Yeah, is it show a dominance? Is it a warning?
Marking his territory, or
marking his territory, marking you, saying you're not nothing. There's
got to be something to that too, because their behavior is definitely different with women and children than they are with men. It seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Very good.
So I guess you want to waterproof your tent really good.
yeah. Yeah, you don't want that soaking
Yes.
through.
Well, guys, I think we're going to be wrapping up the show here. I would love to have you guys back on. Obviously, there's way more discussion and opinions we could get out of all of you, and have Shane to come on the show.
Yes.
Real quick, what do you know? Do you guys have anything planned for the future that you guys want to reveal? Any things like that? Anything you want to plug? You guys got a YouTube channel, stuff like that.
Dave, go ahead.
Well, I'll do the upcoming events and stuff, and then you guys can plug the YouTube. We are planning a bunch of expeditions in the fall. We do have some areas that we're going to go definitely into. Cato grasslands, different spots around here in Texas. Hoping to go to Oklahoma. Hoping to go up to Colorado. Also, too, Shane and I have been approached. We can't give out any names, but TAAPS has been approached to actually work with a leading DNA analyst and collecting DNA samples. So that's what we're going to be doing, hopefully in the fall.
Awesome.
So yeah, it is awesome. So they're reached out to us and said, hey, we know what you guys are doing. We checked you guys out. This is us. You've heard of us. You know who we are. And we said, okay, let's do it. Let's get on board. So that's going to be the goal now, is to work with them. So that's it. That's our big thing coming up.
Yeah.
But like I said, if anybody wants to come join us, you are more than welcome to. We're an open group. Like I said, we like to share our information. We don't hide anything. We share it with other groups. And our big thing, though, about TAAPS is we just want to make people aware. We're not out to prove the existence of Bigfoot. We know they exist. Our whole thing is awareness and just making people aware that these animals are out there. They are real. And then to preserve the species. That's what it's about, So there's my plug.
Yeah. And Blake, I know Josh had mentioned that y'all were maybe your group wanted to get down to Sam Houston. So anytime we'd be glad to.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Come on.
We'd be glad to get y'all set up and find a good area. And
I would hope for next year.
All right.
just don't do it in the summer.
Yeah, no, not just
down here in the
no.
summer.
Yeah. We definitely plan on coming to Texas and going out there with you guys. I mean,
we'd love for you to come
keep
join
hearing
us.
more and more about this area, and after tonight, it's like, gotta dip my toes in the water a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm all about it.
We'll take him over to Big Thicket too. Show him around Big Thicket.
Yeah, that's some spooky area.
Spookiest, craziest spots you got. I would love to be there. It's
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we got you, Blake.
Yeah.
good.
Anyway, we'd like to invite the listeners to come join our Facebook page, Texas TAAPS, Texas Acknowledgment, awareness and preservation of Sasquatch, called TAAPS, and we'd like invite everybody to join up and
Yep.
follow.
Check out our YouTube channel too. Same thing. It's on tap. So
Yep.
a lot of cool video and audio on there.
Yeah, and we're hoping to start put even more out there this next year. Keep it going.
That's right. We definitely got to put more. Got to get the thermals and stuff, and obviously, you guys are going to be having some good stuff for us. If you got that already, so
Yeah, we're excited about it. You know what? Our group has grown. We've got more resources, better technology now. So, Mark is our technologist. I call him.
Our technologist. Mark's our techie.
Yeah, he's our techie. So anyway,
well, I guess I could share with you guys. I don't know if Shane shared with you or not, but I might as well put it out there. And Blake, you'll love this. We have been presented with another unique opportunity. A friend of mine works in the oil industry out here in Texas. He's the assistant chief of fire protection, and he has access to one of those high-tech drones that they use for fire detection and gas leaks, with the flares and all that. And he's going to let us use that. He's going to come out with us in the fall. So
Wow,
we're gonna have a really neat drone that we're gonna run into Sam, and this thing will, if anything's out there like he said, we're gonna catch it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'll work.
if you're
Yeah,
talking about
that's-
gas leaks and stuff, yeah, that top
Yeah,
of the line. I mean,
We're talking, the top of the line, drones,
dozens and dozens
Yeah.
of thousands of dollars worth of camera,
Yeah,
absolutely.
industry camera. Yeah,
yeah, that'll be an exciting one.
Yeah,
For sure.
awesome. Well, we have a lot to look forward from you guys, and I'm definitely going to be hearing more from you. And so, thanks for everyone for joining in the show. I want to apologize for again yesterday's show. We had technical difficulties on my end and on the guest's end, and for whatever reason, just couldn't work out, guys. So we're gonna have Jeremiah Fountain back on next Wednesday, and we will continue from there. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and hope you guys have a good night. We'll see you later.
Thanks,
Be
Blake.
safe.
Appreciate
Keep
it, man.
watching.
Really appreciate it.
You guys too.
Thank you.